G'day, Sean here. Back again for another video, not for flathead this time though, even though the video I'm about to do is about bass and open season's still a little over a week away. I thought I'd get into a few little bass reviews. I'm by no means a professional bass angler on the circuit or anything like that, but I have been put onto the bass jig bite. And that was last year in the spring, so in September of last year, a bloke, Cam Hall from Motackle up there, got me on the jig bite, and I want to make a video because when I first got onto the jig, I was super worried. It's got a weed guard. I'll show you a few bits and pieces I've got here, and that weed guard is a big sort of like confidence killer, especially if you're going out to waterway and there's some bass there and you just want to hook a few fish, right? So if you pull this out, so that's your jig there, you've got that weed guard, and it just you're thinking to yourself, the first time you fish these things, you're just thinking, there's no way you're going to be able to set a hook on it. Like, it's a pretty tough little weed guard. But I'm here to say that if a noob jig fisherman like me can set hooks in bass with this weed guard, you can too. And I'm telling you, it is possibly the best way. Maybe not the best way. It is the most fun way to catch bass, and look, from all accounts, this is getting big bass. So I'll say that as well. Your spinnerbaits are always going to be your go-to. They're a great option. They're also super snag resistant, so you can chuck it into some pretty hairy country. But the jig, when it comes to throwing baits in structure that's deep, cops a bit of current, and is even spindly stuff, really spindly snags, big laydowns, any kind of structure that you're thinking of, the jig is going to get that bait moving in that area, with a high likelihood that you're not going to get snagged on the way out. Even the old spinnerbait will get snagged up from time to time. But look, I'm just going to run through jig for bass. I'll run through what the setup is, standard colours, standard sizes, weights, and just the way to fish them. Because, mate, if I didn't have Cam over there at Motackle sort of getting in my ear and saying, look, mate, you need to be throwing jigs for bass, I wouldn't have done it. And yeah, mate, indebted to you. So it's the best fun, and I'm always excited for the jig bite. So let's just jump into it. Look, in terms of where do you find jigs, how much they are, about sort of $12 a jig, and it's a funny thing. You're chucking in real hectic country, so you're thinking to yourself, oh mate, how many jigs am I going to lose? You are going to lose jigs every now and then. If you're throwing jig all day and you're throwing into real tough country, you don't have to. You can walk them down little rock walls. You can punch it out into sort of those bigger, older snags with less spindles on them, and you're way less likely to get snagged on those laydowns that are real old, depending on the type of tree as well. But yeah, so I guess it gets a little bit complicated there, but you're not losing a heap of these jigs. I mean, all you're doing, you're buying this $12 jig, maybe you got two of them, get a black, I've got, and that's super popular, the black and blue. I think there's something pretty close to a half on light blue and a half on black. I actually don't mind the green. So these are all 3/8 ounce in size. They're all Bassman. They've got so many colour options. I think they come in either a half ounce or 3/8. I just throw the 3/8s. I'm not fishing real deep country, so the water I'm fishing in the river is about, and there's a bit of flow as well. Like there's a bit of not sort of headwater type flow or anything like that, but there's a pretty consistent flow when the water's moving because it's still like a bit of a tidal area, but still catch plenty of bass up there. So 3/8 is more than enough to punch it out, and it's heavy enough lure to cast on the gear that you want to cast with as well. So that's important, but we will get to that. And here's another little Bassman jig there. I don't mind the green. I really loving the green. So something you can do if you want to fish, say the water's like a bit cold and you want to fish your jig super slow, like you are looking at a piece of structure and you're like, yep, I know there's a fish there. I might have to really tempt him into biting. And sorry, Bassman, but you know, trim the skirt. If you trim that skirt, what'll happen is, if you're working a lure much slower, that skirt, it's long enough where it's not actually providing a lot of action because the movement is so short and there's just not a lot of water passing through that skirt. So it's a little bit more drab. It's better if you've got a sharper hop, and so when it comes out, the fullness of that skirt can really open up. But if you're really only just slightly working it, if you cut that skirt in half, it has a tendency to flare out a lot more. So you get more shorter but sharper flares when you trim that skirt right down. But that's a bit of a muck around thing once you're sort of comfortable with the jig anyway. But yeah, look, just if you want to get a jig, just buy Bassman. They're really well priced. Mo Tackle's got a whole heap of them, different colours, and there is, if you've looked at any of the American stuff, and those guys fish jigs like crazy, but there's different heads on jigs. I don't know what one of them is. So you got the football jig, which is like basically look at a rugby ball, like front on, and that's the jig head, and the hook will be going backwards. That's a terrible demonstration, but basically it's used to walking down rock walls, and because it's wider in profile, it gets jammed in timber easy. So we don't like. I haven't seen any football jig heads here because, like, when we jig fish here for bass, generally it's in that timber country. So I haven't seen any football heads. I'm sure they're out there, but I've just never bought any. I'm guessing there's like a standard jig head for them, but this jig head here, that's what you call like an all-terrain jig head. So you can see, sorry for that, I might have pulled this one out. You'll see that it's pretty flat. See that it's pretty flat there, you can see that profile. Now that's so it sits up. So when your trailer, sorry about the bloody fingers going everywhere. So when your jig's coming down and that skirt's puffing up in the water and doing all the good stuff, and your trailer's hanging off the back there, it's sort of having that hook nice and proud up off the bottom, so it's not sort of real flat and reducing the movement. So, and it also helps when you're walking it across all different types of hairy structure. So, yeah, look, that's the all-terrain jig head. So if you see a funny looking jig head, I mean, that's sort of the way to go anyway. So don't stress too much about that. So I did mention the weights. I mentioned that they're around 3/8 and ½ ounce in the Bassman. I'm fairly certain. I don't know if they do a quarter, but anyway, you probably wouldn't want to use a quarter because your bottom contact is a real important thing when you jig fishing. So I'm actually going to go back, and if you've watched any of my flathead gear videos, then you'll see this combo here. And you know, I mentioned it as my favourite combo to throw, and I mentioned sort of the bass application. So again, that's the Jiggy Smalls TD Black. That's the 20 series. It's a how long have we got? 2.16 meters. It's a 712. Now, line rating is about 7 to 28 grams there, and it's a 3 to 8 kilo stick. So that's super important. So first of all, you want to be able to punch out that jig, and the cast weight's, perfect for that. And you think, you might think to yourself, 3 to 8, oh, that's a pretty heavy stick for bass fishing. It can be, but I'm telling you, when you set the hook on these fish on the jig, it's mental. It is absolutely mental. People talk about like top water fishing for bass, and sure, pretty fun, but I really don't think it's got anything on jig for bass. It's just to give you a bit of an analogy, like when you do finally set that hook, and we'll sort of talk about that briefly. when you do finally set that hook, it's sort of like you've hit a snag and the snag races off. Because you've got so much power in that rod and you need to set the hook home, the hook set is really important, and you're giving it a fair bit, so it's just a straight up clunk. So I'll walk through a little bit of the process because we're about 10 minutes now, so yeah, I'm getting too excited, so I'm gas bagging, I'm talking too much now. So what you want to be doing is, I might try and use this as how you run the thing. So you're really only just moving that jig through that country. So that's pretty much what you're aiming for. Now, when it comes to setting the hook, and that's a big thing that people are going to worry about, but I'm telling you, don't worry, you're going to be able to pick it up pretty quickly. With the jig, you're jigging it through, and it's a little bit like bait fishing. You're actually just really carefully looking at the line, and this can be tough during windy days. So if you're a new jig fisher, maybe do it on a calmer day, but you know, throw that out and just jig it ever so slightly. Put a Berkeley Gulp on there, usually the 3" in the black minnow grubs is the way to go. And you really hop in it and you'll see the tick in the line from the bass. Now, the reason why you need a high speed reel for jig fishing, it's not an absolute must, but man, it helps out. And it doubles as an excellent application for flathead. So highly recommend the high speed. But you'll see the tick, you're moving that little jig and you just ever so, you know, hopping it, and a fish will pick it up. You'll see the standard tick. Now don't set the hook right now. You've seen that tick. What that bass is going to do, he's going to have that whole jig in his mouth and he's going to swim away. So let him have a swim, maybe a second, maybe 2 seconds. I mean, I've never timed myself personally, so I can't say for sure that it's a 1.25 second bloody leave. But yeah, and that's the most exciting thing. You know, you have to wait just that little bit. So it's the bite, it's the anticipation of, holy moly, like, am I going to stick the hooks in this thing? Now, what you've got to do, and this is what I like to do, is I like to, you've got your rod tip up here and you're sort of working it and you've seen that tick. Now, what you want to do is you want to drop your rod tip. Don't leave the slack to run out on you. You want to drop the rod tip, maintain a bit of a belly in your line. So don't be tight on him winding down and then pulling up. I want to leave a little bit of belly in my line, and you're just winding that, you're cranking that handle over as you're dropping. So you're cranking that handle over, you're dropping your rod, you still got belly in your line. Once you get to about there, just, mate, make sure your drag's tight, set the mongrel, absolutely stick into him. This is ridiculous jag fishing country. If you've ever seen some of the videos the Yanks do about ridiculous hook sets, mate, this is the territory, and this is exciting stuff, because it's that moment where you drop that rod tip, you know there's a bite, you can see the line moving in the water. You are not 100% on if you can stick this fish or not, so you have to put in a good hook set. I mean, don't snap your rod, and don't set it high. Bloody don't set it high. You'll snap the rod tip and you'll be upset. Dyer will be upset if you're using their gear. You probably won't snap their rod tips because they're mad, but look, just don't be upset at the end of the day, and make sure that when you're hook setting, don't set it too high. And that's why you want to be down here. You've got a little bit of belly in your line and you're kind of pulling back and you're ripping it up. The 3 to 8 kilo is going to have enough power to pull through that weed guard there, because your bass that you've got on the end of your line, he's taking it like this and he's closing his mouth. He's not swimming up with his mouth open trying to figure out what it is. He's closed. When you pull in, and it just stuck in my finger then without too much pressure at all. Trust me, that hook's going to find home. Don't worry about the hook set. Don't worry about the weed guard. Don't chop the weed guard off. Look, if you're super worried about it and you are just starting, like, all right, push the weed guard down a little bit. Maybe if you're super worried about it, so it flattens. So that will come rigged pretty straight and uniform. Like, you can push it down a little bit if you want, but there's really no need to. But anyway, look, that's just how I fish the jig. I'm having so much fun doing it. Doing this video now, I know I've got a flathead fishing little trip with my mate in Yarra tomorrow, but mate, I am absolutely frothing to get on the bass jig bite. It's just, it's the clunk, it's the tick, the move, the waiting game. Even if it's 1 second, mate, 1 second will feel like an eternity. And then when you set that hook, and every now and then, you know, you will miss a bite. And you know, even that happens with exposed hooked lures as well, I guess. But you know, it's the anticipation when you set that hook and you just feel the clunk. And 9 out of 10 times that clunk is a big bass, and he's you've got to have that drag set. I'm telling you, you've got to crank that drag over. The line we're using on this one, that's 15 pound, and I've actually got 12 pound on here because I'm a dope, and I just haven't bought any 15 pound leader, so it's 12 pound. But funnily enough, like setting the hooks on this thing, like they still stick. I haven't pulled my 50 yet, so I'm like, not Devo, like I love it, but I haven't pulled my 50, and I'm real keen to pull the 50. But my 49s, I've pulled like 3 or 4 49s now, so yeah, like I've had this drag locked up pretty tight, and I've leaned into them, and it is the best fun. So look, I was trying to keep this to sort of 12 minutes, but she's blown out a little bit. But I guess you can just tell how excited I am for jig fishing. And if I can get someone interested in jig fishing and just converted, like going full on Hillsong on the jig bite, like I'll do it, because it's the most exciting thing. It's awesome, and it's there's so much anticipation at so many different points in time. It's the anticipation of throwing into this hectic snag, and you know there's fish down there, but any other bait just won't do it for you. The jig will do it for you. And then there's the anticipation of the tick, anticipation of the weight, anticipation knowing which direction that fish moves in, and the anticipation of setting the hook in that fish. And there's just multiple points of adrenaline through this whole process. And think about this, that's one jig bite. If you could get 5 jig bites, all those moments linked up with 5 jig bites during the day, oh mate, you would just be smiling ear to ear. You'll have sore cheeks by the end of the day. But look, I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm going way over. But yeah, look, obviously the Daiwa stuff's real mad for this. The TD Blacks are absolutely phenomenal pieces of kit. But yeah, go into his hackle store, get some Bassman all terrain in the 3/8 jig. Get yourself some 3-inch Berkeley gulps. Put them on the trailer there. I'm using a few Yabby imitations at the moment to mix things up. But yeah, just get out there, throw into the worst country imaginable, and just pull some mega fish out of them, because it is the best fun. Look, thanks so much. I've made a couple of videos now, and people have been super positive, which is like just sweet, because I was a bit worried about trolls just absolutely like throwing tons of shade on me. So I'm sure it'll happen at some point. But yeah, look, thanks for the positive support. It sort of makes me really thankful that you know, people watch it and people get some value out of it. And I'll say it over and over again, I'm not some mad hectic fisher, but I've just been doing a few different things, and I find, like for instance, this jig stuff just awesome. And I hope I can encourage people to fish in ways that, you know, give them more joy out of the fishing they do, and make them a bit more successful, because you know, there's no better feeling than pulling good fish in a boat and having a good time on the water. So if I can help you do that, then I'll be a happy man. But look, if anyone else is doing something different on the jig bite for bass, hit me up. Put a comment down below. I'd be really keen to know what you're doing. Even if you're fishing like super light jiggers for your jig fishing for your bass, that'd be sweet. But yeah, always keen to hear from you. And yeah, anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks for watching, and until bass season and thereafter, keep fishing. Cheers.